Hello, I'm Janna, and welcome back to the Crafty Corner. Today is very exciting. I just got my stash of Tim Holtz Idea-ology Halloween products. So we're going to be going over a brief overview with these, and then we're going to be diving into some alterations. If you'd like to see which supplies we'll be using here today, go ahead and pause here. All right, let's head over to the Crafty Corner. Today is all about ideology, and there is a lot of fantastic Halloween ideology for 2024. So let's start by taking a look at the craft stock paper, and this is the Halloween plaid sparkle, and this stuff is absolutely gorgeous. Look at that amazing sparkle. And there are 4 different designs to create with. Definitely an instant favorite for me. Now, keeping along with more things in the paper substrate category, we have got the 2024 Halloween backdrops. And again, so many good patterns. I particularly love the brick wall. That one is going to be a good one. Then we have got Halloween collage strips, and these are some of the large ones. Those are fantastic, and they will make wonderful backgrounds. I can already see lots of journaling happening in the future. Moving on, there's also transparent moth wings. These are so cool. I can't wait to attach these to paper dolls and use them in backgrounds. They are going to be fantastic. Then, more transparencies. We've got those fantastic shattered windows, but we've also got cobwebs and more of those really cool bat wings that I stuck all over paper dolls last year. So super happy to see this, and I'm loving that we've now got spider webs too. Next, we've got the sticker book. Every year, a brand new sticker book with new things. We've still got a lot of the same classic words in here, but the new part is going to include more hats. And if you watched live with Tim, then you know that these hats have a little cutout so that you can slip them right onto paper doll heads. That is absolutely wonderful, and I do love adding stickers to paper dolls too. And then we get this cast of characters. Whoa, talk about frightful. These will be so much fun to journal with. And we get 2 sheets of different characters. That is going to be wonderful. Okay, still kind of building my little collage here. Now we get into trinkety bits and pieces. We've got a new layers and paper dolls pack. I'm loving that giant piece in the back, and I can already see that we've got a few new characters in here and definitely some old favorites. I can already see the creepy bride poking through. So you know that I love building with layers, and whenever there's a chance to layer, I'm always diving for my ephemera packs. Then we've got baseboards. I am so excited about the baseboards this year. We've got these fantastic signs, and it looks just like faux wood. I am in love with these. I've got so many ideas, and I cannot wait to create some vignettes with these. Really exciting about those. Next, this is a returning SKU. We've got droopy candles, so of course I had to stock up. Must have drippy candles. Very important when creating. So I'm just gonna move this over and make some space. There we go. All right, another returning favorite. We've got confections. I always have to get a pack of these every year. I go through them so fast. And with that addition last year of that orange striped candy twist, that made me want to stock up even more. Another returning favorite. We have got more of the Halloween tiny lights, and you know I love to put tiny lights anywhere I can. Next, we have got Gothic gates. So these are a little bit different than the first set with the iron gates. They simplified the design a little bit, but they are still nice and creepy and will be perfect for maybe a cemetery theme. Next, we have got new skulls. These interlock. I love how they're stacked, and this has given me the idea for my big Idea-ology Halloween project. We're going to be building a crypt, and these guys are going to be playing quite the role in that project. Very, very happy about the skulls, and I can mix and match with some of the ones from last year too. Now, let's move on to some other things. These are cute. I love the little Halloween figurine stands. We've got a cat, we've got an owl, and then we've got a jack-o'-lantern. Those are adorable. No idea what I'm doing with them yet, but I love them. Okay, next, returning favorite. We've got bubbles. I love the bubbles. Have to get some every year. I tend to actually use these more around Christmas time, which is interesting, but always good for a bubbly witch's cauldron. And now we have some metal pieces. These are the word plaques and tags. And we've got peculiar and curious things and haunted memory. I like that. And the little ones say beware, elixir, potion, and they've got 31 crossbones and a number 13. So always nice to have little trinkety bits. Now this is a returning favorite. A lot of addicts were super, super sad to see these go, and I came way too late to the game to even know about these except through the Tim Holtz Lives. These are typography, and this is a whole resin alphabet set, and there's 73 pieces, so you get lots of doubles. It tells you right on the back exactly how much of everything that you're getting. For example, you get 4 A's, 4 E's, you get a 1 Z, 2 K's, 4 S's, so the most frequently used letters are being doubled up on, if not quadrupled. So that will be great to create things with. Okay, now we've got some collage paper. Love it. So creepy, and these are going to be so fun. And as you'll see in the Grimoire project, these definitely are going to be making an appearance. They are fantastic. All right. Now we've got more ephemera. This is 2024, and there are so many fantastic little bits and pieces. There's more of those books. We definitely need to do a short or a video featuring some bookmaking with those. That'll be really fun. Just lots of fun little pieces to play with. And last but not least, I am super excited about these. We have got conservatory, and look at these pieces. I can't wait to start playing with them because this is also going to be featuring into our crypt project. We've got like a little pedestal. We've got that urn, but it's been resized. We've got a shallow urn. Kind of looks like a bird bath. Ooh, I could definitely do something like that in the spring. That'd be fun. And then we've got another. This is like maybe a mini urn or maybe a sconce. Either way, these are giving me so many ideas. I can't wait to start playing. So this is our overview of the new SKUs and returning favorites of this year's Tim Holtz Halloween Idea-ology. This is 2024. Now we get to dive in and start playing and altering. All right, let's get started. To start our alterations, we're going to be pulling in the Idea-ology textured hammer and some of the new baseboards from this year. Now, I've got a handful of these fantastic baseboards that look like boards, but can't just leave them looking this nice and shiny. We need to add some texture to them and maybe grunge them up just a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the texture hammer and we're just going to tap, and that should give us some great texture to work on. Now I'm going to try to cut down on some of that sound by taking this and just folding it in on itself a couple of times, and let's see how that works. Not bad. So don't need to do a lot, just enough to ding this up a bit, and I'll just do the same thing to the other pieces, just like that. So if we hold this up, you can see that we've definitely got some dings on here, and this is just adding some texture to these baseboard boards. So let's keep doing that. Just turn that. There we go. And just going to keep tapping these. Just a couple more, and we'll be good. All right, there we go. And just this one left. All right, so that is pretty good. And we'll just set that hammer aside. Now that I have these boards, and they're all nicely textured, I do want to kind of camouflage the edges just a bit. So I'm going to take the Distress Crayon Walnut Stain, and I'm just going to rub that right along the edges. I'm just coloring directly on here, and then I'm just smudging that out with my finger just to cover up that exposed edge, because I want these to look as grungy as possible. I might even go back after and do some more Distress Crayon along the front, because they are really, really shiny, which doesn't really go with the look that I'm after at the moment. So I've got those, just working around the edge, coloring directly, and I'm just smushing that out with my finger. Nothing fancy, no added tools, just apply and smudge. So what I'm going to do next is put some crayon off to the side, and I'm going to take just a little bit of water, add a spritz to that, and I'm not sure how this is going to work, but I thought maybe we just kind of go over the top a little bit with some of that Distress Crayon and kind of gunk up the finish just a little bit. There we go. Just see how that comes out. Just darkening things up just a little bit and making sure that shiny finish isn't too shiny. So here are the altered boards. We went around the edges and we darkened them up with some Distress Crayon, and then added a bit more grunge over the top. And as you can see, we definitely ding these up using the hammer, which I like how that added something just a little bit more to the wood. So that would be our first alteration. Let's go ahead and set those pieces aside and move on to the next one. The next one is really, really simple. We're just taking that same idea, but we're going to be altering this little chip quote, and nothing overly extravagant. We're just taking some distressed black soot and darkening up the edge so that it's going to match. Sometimes it's just the little alterations that can finish things off, and as we like to say, it's in the details. Just finishing things off, having things match, and just doing small alterations can make a humongous difference in a project. All right, so pretty simple. Added some black soot on the edges so we no longer have that raw side, and that would be done. Okay, moving right along. Next, I want to pull in some of the mummy cloth. This is all Tim Holtz Idea-ology, and this stuff is fun. It's great for kind of like tattered curtains. It's good for cobwebs and anything else that you want to give a more grungy look. So I'm just pulling off a bunch of this right now because I want to have some tattered cobwebs and kind of some hanging vines in the crypt that we're going to be building. So let's see, I think that'll be good. Just trim that. And we're going to be altering this with a bit of black soot distress spray stain. So I'm just leaving this all in one big cluster at the moment. That's going to be fine. And we're going to take some water and we're going to spray that down. Ideally, I want this fairly soggy. There we go. And then we're just going to go in with the black soot. And in this case, I really do want to soak it because I'm trying to get everything dyed. There we go. I'm just going to kind of mop that around here. Try to get all of that color. Looks like you need to go back in with a few more spritzes. There we go. Okay. So, this is a fairly easy alteration, but just adding some color to this can really change that otherwise very plain looking fabric thread into something a lot more interesting. There we go. And I've definitely done this in the past using a mica spray. I bet we could technically use spritz, but today I'm just going for a straight up black. All right, as you can see, it's a little bit messy. If you don't like the mess, feel free to throw on some gloves or clean your hands in between. Honestly, I'm just going to spray with water and this should be a lot better in just seconds. There. Pretty much all clean. All right, I'm just going to quickly wipe down my surface and we're going to throw this on fast forward as we dry this off with the Ranger heat tool. And here is our dried mummy cloth. We've dyed it a nice black soot and this will be ready to use in our project. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that when you bring this up close, if we look carefully, I can shred this and that will help give us some really grungy vibes. I'm looking forward to doing that to make some spider's webs. Okay, let's go ahead and set this one aside. Next, we're going to be altering a little metal spider. Now, if you were watching, you probably saw this on a reel that I did earlier, but that was just a quick overview. But this is definitely worth talking about. So, for the spider, what we need is some Distress Nightfall glitter, some collage medium, a spider, and I like using little tweezers. These are the squeezers from Sizzix and Tim Holtz to fish the spider out of my glitter. So I'm just opening up the glitter, taking my collage medium, and we're going to spread the glue right on the back of the spider. Just putting a little bit on his back and his head. Here we go. And a little bit right there. And then all we're going to do is dump that right in the glitter. Just gonna give that a good little shake. And now we'll fish out our spider. There he is. Give that a tap. And let's take a look. Here is our fantastic glittery spider. This is a very simple way to alter those metal Idea-ology spiders, and as we know, these are going away, but believe me, I definitely stocked up because I do love a good spider. Okay, so this will take anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes to dry, and if you take a look at some of my earlier Halloween videos, I will show you other ways that you could alter these fantastic spiders. All I have to say is spider candy. Okay, another simple alteration for changing up Idea-ology parts and pieces. Now, let's move on to one of the main highlights of the upcoming Crypt project. Bones and skulls. We're going to be doing quite a bit with these. I am so excited that I've got skulls from several different runs of Idea-ology. If we take a look, we've got these giant skulls. They're pretty cool. They're already kind of grungy. They got great detail. We've got these kind of flattish ones. It's kind of neat, and they're pretty stackable. And oh, what else do I have? So we've got this large one. I've got these kind of medium-ish ones. The jaw isn't nearly as noticeable as it is on here. These are kind of like half skulls, like they cut half the jaw away. And then we have this year's skulls. These are very, very interesting. And all I can say is that these are look so cool in a crypt. I've had this idea of doing a crypt for a while, and I was just imagining a wall stuffed full of skulls, and having all these different shapes and sizes is definitely going to help with that vision. So we're going to be grunting these up a bit, and then I'll do the same thing to the bones. So this is going to be pretty simple. The main thing is I need distress crayon, and I'm going to be scribbling lots of that off to the side. And I'm going to be bringing in the blending brush. Now, these have been around for a bit, and as you can see, I've definitely used this a lot. This one is dedicated specifically to distress crayon. It's got these fantastic natural fibers, and as we know, depending on how much you want to apply, you can raise that little collar piece up and down accordingly. So I'm going to just spray my crayon off to the side. I'm going to take my brush, dip that in, and now we're just going to smush that on the skulls. And I want these looking as grungy as possible. So I'm just going to smush that right on there. I'm not going to worry about my fingers. I'm just interested in the grunge. Now, one thing I'm finding very interesting is that every year that we get these really cool skulls, we seem to get a different finish. Like this year, I'm noticing they're a little bit more tannish pink. Other years, it's been more of an ivory color, and some years it's been leaning more towards brown. I think that contrasting color is going to give us a very interesting look once we get these into the dark crypt that I'm imagining. So, just taking that, smushing that on here. Probably going to need more distress crayon. This is definitely a good time to be using it. And of course, walnut stain is my go-to for grunge. And it does play nicely, and it comes up really darkly as I'm smushing that onto things. There we go. So I'm just kind of doing the same thing with all the skulls, and the more it gets into those little cracks and crevices, the better. Because we want these to look really old and weather-beaten. Okay. As you can see, this is the side that we've done, and this side we haven't touched yet, and you can definitely tell the difference between the two sides, which is cool. All right, over halfway done. That's good. These new skulls are so small. Definitely a lot smaller than previous years, but as I said, the size is going to be really nice for the upcoming project. All right. Now, some of these I'd altered previously. I think the gold and silver ones I might have done during one of the Tim Holtz holiday hooplas for Halloween. But I think having a little bit of metallic in there could also just be interesting and add a bit of variety. Okay, 2 more to go. And last one. Oh, I'd say these are pretty grungy. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to essentially do the same thing with the bones. I'm going to take distress crayon, more water, the brush, and we're just going to try to brush the color onto the bones, because right now you can tell these are like almost neon bright in comparison to the grunge that we've got going over here. So I want to darken these up a bit. Now, the interesting thing about the bones is that, again, I've got several different years worth of bones right here. We have switched between shiny finish and matte finish. Last year, I believe these were kind of matte, but they had a really different texture. It's I don't know how to describe it. This was kind of like a velvety, soft finish that was matte, that had the little speckles in it, and then we had the shiny sets that also have speckles, but this one was really unique. So we're just going to take these and we're going to add some grunge to them. Then we'll set those aside to dry as well. So these I can pretty much just go right over the top right here. There we go. Oh yeah, that's darkening up very nicely. Good. All right, so we've got some grungy skulls. We've grunged up the bones. Time to move on to another alteration. So we're just going to clear the deck and start in on some drippy candles next. So next we've got drippy candles. I am so happy that these are back. They are so fun and I love the way they look. Now, if you've been around for a while, I'm sure you're going to recall that we actually made drippy candles once during a Tim Holtz live demo. That was so much fun, and apparently those candles also inspired these to come into the line. So I'm really happy to see these, but I also had fun making these from scratch. So if these ever go away, at least I know how to make them from scratch if need be. But in the meantime, I'm going to enjoy these a lot. So what I want to do is I kind of want to get like a ghostly candle effect going. And I was thinking by adding just a dash of distress paint, brushed pewter, that we'd be able to get a lovely kind of ghost-like effect. Now, I'm going to be messy. I just picked up the paint right on my fingers and I'm just going to smush that over the candle. I don't want this completely silver, but I want it to be kind of luminescent so that it looks ghostly depending on how the light is hitting it. So there we go. We're just going to take that. I'm just taking my fingers and rubbing that on here. And yeah, that is all I'm doing for this part of the alteration. So just smush right on. You know, I think I'll probably try to grunge these a little bit after, because why not? I am enjoying doing all things grunge today. But the main thing I want is to get that little bit of shimmer on here. And since this is an acrylic paint, it will stick nicely to the resin that the candles are made out of. Okay, there we go. Pretty good. And why not? A little bit of grunge with crayon. So I'll just pull that brush back and I'm just gonna quickly brush that on. There we go. That'll work very well. And last one. So we've now got grungy and kind of metallic-y candles that we can use. There we go. It's hard to catch it on camera where the metallic is, but where it's kind of whiting out is where the metallic is hiding. Okay, great. We've got some drippy candles to play with. Next, we're pulling in some more baseboard pieces. We've got these two cathedral-like doors, and we also have this sign. The sign is brand new this year, and I'm super excited about that, and I've been waiting for a project to use it on. Now, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go around the edges and just camouflage that raw edge, and then we'll get on to the meat of this particular alteration. But I have to get rid of that edge first. That really does kind of drive me nuts seeing that. But that's okay. I can work quickly and get that all covered. Good. That's one. Now let's go for two. The sign's going to be a little bit trickier since it's a bit of a wonky shape, but the doors are pretty straightforward, which is nice. The other thing that I need to do with the doors is actually glue them together because I wanted an interior and an exterior door. So I'll do that first before I tackle the sign. So I'm just going to put down some collage medium. I'll smush that out with my finger and we'll have the doors together. All right. So I'm at the edges, smushing that out. If there's a bit of glue ooze, it won't be too big a deal. I'd actually rather have a little bit too much than too little glue right now. Okay, good. Just gonna try to wipe that off. All right, and we'll just sandwich these two together. Okay, so next we're going to be working on the sign. To hold the doors in place, I am going to be using these little clips. These are also Tim Holtz Idea-ology, and they're going to help me keep that door from wandering off too far. There we go. Just something to help keep everything neatly together. Just try to line those up so that everything's going to be as even as possible. Great. So as you can see, our door is all nicely lined up, and I've got these little Idea-ology clips to help me out. Looks like I might want another couple on the sides. You know, I'm not sure I'm ever going to actually use these in a make. These are like really, really useful just for clipping things together while making. So that is super helpful. All right, so set the door aside and let's take a look at that sign. So for the sign, that is, I think I'm going to scribble off to the side and use my brush to put that on here. That's going to be a little bit easier. There we go. The brush is going to get in much better than my fingers will. So just using that. Good. All right, so that part is done. Now for the door and for the sign, I want to give them even more texture. To do this, I'm going to be adding a layer of collage medium to the baseboard sign and the doors. Then I'm going to be adding a layer of distress crackle paint over the top. The crackle is hopefully going to give us a really good noticeable texture that I will be able to highlight with some distress crayon after it's dried. So let's finish up putting this layer of collage medium on, and then we'll jump back in with our distress crackle paint. Let's take a second look at our door and sign. So we ended up doing a layer of collage medium and then a layer of distress crackle paint. And that gave us some definitive crackles. Check that out. Very, very, very cool. So the next thing that we need to do is make those crackles even more prominent than they already are. And that means I'm going to need some Distress Walnut Stain crayon in order to really bring out those fantastic crackles. I'm just going to take the crayon and scribble that right over the top, and I'm going to smoosh that in with my finger. I've got a little bit of water off to the side because I'm really going to want to push the crayon into the crackly pieces. There we go. And as you can see, those crackles are just popping. Let's zoom in a little bit more so you can take a better look at all that wonderful crackly goodness. So we scribble, we get a little water, and we smush. And just like that, the crackles become highlighted. Let's take a closer look. There we go. Look at all that. Now let's take a look at a before shot. So this is crackle without any distress crayon. This is crackle with the distress crayon. So let's go ahead and do the same thing to the door. Again, I'm going to take our crayon and we're going to scribble right over this. And we'll need a little bit of water. Take that and just smush that right in. We'll zoom out in a little bit and we'll take a look at the entire door. But just make sure that all those areas are nice and smushed. All right, take a look. So much crackle goodness. So now we've got our very grungy door and our sign. For our next alteration, we're going to be pulling in some of this year's Tim Holtz Idea-ology resin letters. These are letterboard. So I got a whole bunch of letters pulled,
because I wanted to add another piece to the sentiment that's going to be on our project. So with these letters, we have spelled out beware. So we're going to be altering these, and I want to make them a bit shiny, but a lot of grungy. So to do that, we're pulling in the Tim Holtz Ranger Distress Grit Paste Opaque. And we're also going to be using a dash of Distress Foundry Wax. And we will also be using some black soot for an added layer of grunge. To start, I want to take a bit of the texture paste and smush that onto the letters. I want the letters to be more bumpy and chunky rather than smooth. So the grit paste is hopefully going to be giving us that effect. So I scoop some out on the side, and I think I'm just going to go in with my fingers and try to grunge these up. I don't think I'll get very far with the palette knife. So we're just going to go directly onto the letters and smush down that grit paste. And then as we let it dry, we'll be able to work on the next layer of alteration. So I've just got my fingers, and I'm going to try to tap this on to all of the letters. I want to get not quite perfect coverage, but I want a lot of the texture to be really sticking to the letters so that you can tell that they're supposed to be grungy. I'm trying to go for like really old, worn metal letters that you might see like on a cemetery gate. So hopefully this is going to give us the look that I am after. Okay. Now getting in between the pieces is definitely a little bit challenging, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. If some parts are smooth and other parts aren't, well, that's just going to add to the visual interest. So we're just going to do the best that we can as we grunge up these letters. Okay, I'm going to finish grunging these and we'll be right back.
Now that the letters are nice and dry, we're going to be going in with some foundry wax. The foundry wax we're going to be using is Statue. So I'm going to give this a really good shake, trying to make sure that everything is incorporated. Now I'm just going to pour some of this off to the side, and we're going to coat our letters before we use the embossing heat gun to set these. Alright, so I'm going to be going in with a paintbrush, and I'm just going to be brushing this on as best we can. Oh, it's going to be interesting. I guess I'll have to pick it up. Let's see what we can do. I want to get that foundry wax all over these. So let's go ahead and put this part on fast forward as we paint the rest of our letters. We've now got our letters completely coated with that gorgeous foundry wax. Now it's time to add a layer of black soot paint to make these look even grungier. The idea is that I want some of the pieces to look like they've got bits of metallic peeking through a mostly grunged up metal facade. So we'll see how this works. I think I'm going to need maybe like a dabber. Here we go. Can use that. Try to tap on the paint. Let's see how this goes. Ooh, okay. Let's see. I wonder if I will need Distress Crayon for this instead. Or is the paint just going to take a little bit longer to dry? The black distress paint tends to be one of the more watery paints. So I am wondering if I need to just change mediums because the boundary wax is kind of acting like a resist. That's kind of interesting. Oh, I'm just going to try this on the E. Smushing that in with my fingers. Now it's really beading. It's not quite doing what I want. So change of plan. Let's grab the black soot distress crayon. Because this, I know, is definitely going to stick. Kind of got a little bit from the paint, but I want more grunge. So we'll just add the crayon. Ooh, yep, no, that is what I'm going for. Got a really grungy E here, and like you can see the texture from the texture grit paste. Yeah. That is what I'm going for. Because like you can see the little bit of gold, but then we got a lot of black. Good. Let's see how that goes with this one. It's going to scribble that on directly. There. And then I can smush that in with my fingers. Okay, yeah. Now we're talking. This is just what I'm wanting. Very cool. Oh, if it's too shiny, I just add a little bit more crayon. Yeah. Now, this is the really cool thing about having so many different creative options at your fingertips. If plan A doesn't work because you get surprised, like foundry wax happens to act as a resist, you can always try another medium instead. Backup plan, if the distress crayon wasn't playing nice, would have been to put some collage medium over the top of the foundry wax and then add the distress paint. Ooh, I could have probably even done this with a bit of distress glaze. Well, there are definitely multiple options. I'm liking the result with the crayon. I think that's adding some more crusty goodness to this. There we go. Yeah. Nice and grungy. So I'll just keep going around the letters and adding this to it and smushing it out with fingers. Now the nice thing is if I for some reason put too much on in one spot or another, I could just take a tiny bit of water and rub some of that away, and just look at that, the gold comes right back. So you could definitely got some control over how much I put down. All right, 2 more letters. Okay, good. Now, these resin letters are great. I'm so glad they came back. These are definitely going to be fun to alter for other projects. All right, got my grungy E, and now the R. Okay. There we go. I think we are pretty much good. All right. There, we've now got our grungy letters all set up. Okay, well, let's move on to the next alteration. Next, we're going to be altering some of the Tim Holtz Idea-ology paper dolls. And we've got these guys right here, which I think will be some good additions to our Crypt scene. And I've also got some of the new bat wings, and these are semi-transparent, which are pretty darn cool. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to be adding some distress glaze to these guys. I've got some aged mahogany and some chipped sapphire. Those will be our 2 colors. Now, to apply these, what I'm going to be pulling in is the Distress Tim Holtz Ranger Embossing Pen. These come in 2 sizes. There's a bullet tip and then there's a brush tip. I like the brush one better. I find it applies things quicker, since I usually only apply the glaze to fairly large spaces like this girl's dress. So just using that, quickly getting all of that ink down. There we go. Now, the nice thing about the embossing ink is it's very easy to tell if you have it on your surface or not. So if it's on the surface, you tilt it, and if you've got shine, that means you have got embossing ink. If you tilt it and there isn't any shine, that means you didn't put any there. So no ink here, no ink there, but ink on the dress. Just what we want. Now, I'm just going to grab some scrap paper and we're going to put down our color. I decided to go for some H mahogany for this girl. I like her. She looks like she's absolutely up to no good. And that's just perfect for a Halloween scene. Okay. So I did miss a couple of spots, but not a big deal. I can always go back after and touch up those little missed spots. But I'm just going to check. Oh yeah, I definitely missed those. Oh well, not a problem. So I'll set her to the side. We'll dump the glaze back in. There we go. And while I'm at it, I will do the inking for this guy as well. And we're going to give him a chipped sapphire blue suit. So just going to take that ink and brush that right on here. And be extra careful that I actually get all of the spots that I'm looking for. There we go. Almost done. Working my way carefully around that really neat cat. Alright. I think I got this one really good. Now we'll just apply the glaze. Okay. Bring our paper back. Good. And we'll just be pretty generous as we pour the glaze on directly. Little tap, and looks good. So I'll set that aside. And of course, put our extra powder right back in the jar. All right. We'll be back in a moment after I have embossed these. Since we have a couple of little spots here that need some touch up, I'm just going to go right back with the pen and go over those spots and then just dump a bit more embossing glaze over the top. So just quickly applying that. There we go. Ooh, I really do like the color. All right. So need the paper, need some glaze, and we'll go from there. All right, much better. And put the glaze back. So let's go ahead and emboss this and see how we did. So there we go. We've embossed our two paper dolls. A very simple alteration. And now I just want to add on those fantastic wings. Okay. Don't need a whole lot of glue. Just take that. We've got her. There we go. Now, I also had a little dangling charm that I wanted to add to her. Just thought that was kind of fun. There we go. Found this little piece attached to one of the Idea-ology buttons, and thinking it'd be kind of fun for her to be just holding that, like a little charm of some sort. So I'm just going to take some collage medium and I think I'll just glue that to her. That'll work. There we go. So think I'll just put that on like that, and I'll just set this aside and let that dry. Okay, let's move on to our last embellishment. For the last embellishment, we're going to be pulling in some of the brand new pedestals from this year's Tim Holtz Idea-ology release. I love these so much. The detail is just absolutely amazing. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is alter them so that these are going to light up. The plan is to drill through the base of this, up through here, and we're going to be drilling through this as well so I can stick some tiny lights through them. And then I will glue these pieces together so that we end up with this really cool pedestal. I'm hoping these are going to look like ghost lights. So let's go ahead and grab the drill. I've got, I think this is a 1/8 of an inch bit, and we're going to start drilling these. I'm going to try to show you one of these in regular time, and the rest I will put on fast forward. But the idea is pretty straightforward. We want to go straight through this piece and right out the bottom of the base. Now, the trick is to go slow enough that you can see what you're doing and keep things even, but fast enough so that your bit doesn't get clogged with resin. So let's go ahead and at least start this piece. All right, let's see here. I want to get the middle as much as possible. So as you can see, we've got a reasonable start. We've got a bit of a hole already drilled, and as you can see, the resin comes apart pretty easily. But really the hardest thing is just keeping this lined up. And I don't want to drill straight down because I don't want to go into the mat. So I, in the end, really have to hold on to this.
So as I get a better grip on this, let's go ahead and put the rest of this on fast forward as we drill out the little urn and then the pedestal.
Okay, we've got our holes drilled, and that did take a bit of effort, and it's just a tad messy. So just fair warning if you're going to try to drill through these pieces. All right, now we're moving on to trying to string some lights, and we've got the tiny lights Halloween, and we're going to be pulling out the purple ones. So we're just going to see how this is going to put together, and then I will do a little bit of grunging on the pedestal. Okay, just untangling these lights. There we go. We'll just get this through here. Okay, and if you notice, there's a pull tab here, so we just pull that out, make sure that our lights are working. And they are gorgeous as always. So the idea is that we're going to be taking the tiny lights and we're going to be threading that through here. As you can see, that 1/8 inch bit size is perfect. And then I'm going to take that, and that goes up through here. Now the plan is that we just have this one teeny tiny light coming up, and I am thinking that I want to attach a little piece of vellum to this, but that's going to have to wait until the lights are going to be installed, because if I start gluing things down, I won't be able to tuck and hide these. The main thing was to get the pedestal drilled and do a little bit of grunging, but let's see how this looks. So we've got this. There we go. Oh, that's kind of neat. We've got like this really eerie glow in here. That's kind of cool. If I turn it this way, it's not as noticeable, but it's kind of neat, like for backlighting. Ooh. These are definitely giving me some fun, creepy vibes. And I think if I stick like a flame here with a piece of vellum, that could add to the really ethereal look that we're getting. But I kind of love that this is glowing as well. All right. So we're just going to unstring the tiny lights for the moment, and we're going to be grunging this base just a bit with a bit of grit paste and some, oh, you know what? Let's go for the Crypt paste. That makes even more sense. And a dash of Distress Walnut Stain Crayon. Okay, so we're just going to pull that out. Turn this off. We'll save our lights for later. All right, we've got some Crypt paste right here. And I've got my little palette knife. Good. So we just want a little bit on here just to grunge things up. And mostly I'm looking at the pedestal base. I could just use a little bit more gunk put on it. So I'm just going to kind of smush that on. That'll be good. Doesn't need a whole lot, but I just want a little bit more color here on here. And the texture of the stuff is great, so that will add to the grunginess that I'm kind of going for. Okay. There. Just a little bit more grunge. That's good. Let's do the same thing to the other one. Just going to take that and just kind of smear it right on, because we just want that grunginess to come through. I want these to look old, really old. Okay, good. It's already got some pretty good shadow and stain on it, but I just want even more. And I'll probably add some moss and lichen pieces later as well. All right, these are pretty good as they are. I just want a little bit more grunge with the walnut stain crayon. So I'm going to scribble some of that off to the side, and I'm going to grab my brush, and we're just going to brush that on lightly. Okay, got that. Good. Oh yeah, didn't need a lot. That is good. Yeah, just want to darken that up a little bit. There we go. And this one. Now, sometimes just a very small alteration can change the look and feel of a piece. And I love that about Distress Crayon. It doesn't take a lot to get a good effect. Alright, I'm going to go right over the top of this as well. Ooh, there we go. That'll be good. All right, and one more. All right, and this one didn't need that much. So these will make a great addition to our crypt. And you've seen what they look like when they're lit up. And we know that if we drill through the bases of these, it is possible to add tiny lights. Today, we've been having lots of fun altering and creating with this year's Tim Holtz Halloween Idea-ology. As you can see, we have done all sorts of things. We started off with a bit of alterations with some of the new baseboard pieces. We have grunged up some boards, added Distress Crayon, and put some dings into some pieces of wood. We've also had a chance to alter some drippy candles to make them more ghost-like. We've played with some mummy cloths to dye a deep black soot. And we worked on grunging up our crypt door. Then we created some wonderfully textured cobblestones to go on the crypt. And of course, what crypt would not be complete without all sorts of skulls, bones, and spiders, which we altered with distress crayon and some distress glitter. After, we took a look at some of this year's Tim Holtz paper dolls and did a little bit more alteration with distress glaze. And last but not least, we played around with the fantastic resin letters. They have been so fun, and we got some good grunge out of that. And then the highlight of the alterations were the pedestals. We have drilled through the bottom of those, and we've added a light, which we will do in the final make, to create some fantastic ghostly lights. And we grunged up those pedestals with some distress crayon walnut stain. Thank you so much for joining me here today at the Crafty Corner for all of this fun, spooky Halloween goodness. Until next time, happy crafting.